Warning, this episode is rated M for mature and rated F for funny. Hello, I'm your host, Skeptical Scott.
And I am this week's co-host, Artie Fisher.
Welcome to Funny You Say That. And if you've ever rethought what you were taught and said to yourself, why did I believe that? Then this show's for you. Today we have an ex-pastor, ex-church leaders, music producer, satire creator, shenanigans maker. Please welcome to the show, Joshua and Prez.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm so good. I'm joining you from Michigan. Where are you joining us from?
California.
Sunny California.
Beautiful California.
Are you near the coast at all or more interior?
I grew up on the coast, but we're a little landlocked. We're about an hour from the closest ocean.
I'm really glad to be joining with you today. So I learned of you through TikTok. One of the things that I see in your descriptions is I like to take awful Bible verses and turn them into modern day sounding songs. Right? Does that describe kind of like your lane right now?
It feels like a dating profile. Like it feels like our old dating profiles like getting
totally
brought back to us.
The original line there was, "I like to take long walks on the beach," but we changed it to that. It's kind of our thing. I don't know what our thing is because our thing is constantly changing and evolving, and then we're going back to it. So
as artists do. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, ever since I wrote that on the profile, that's evolved quite a bit because Trysten and Sayge has kind of taken on a life of their own. That's our satirical Christian couple.
Throughout this episode, you are going to hear several examples from Trysten and Sayge, our church leader couple. All the recordings that you hear, most of them are live recordings on TikTok. Check our show notes. You can see those videos. And those of you who have been to a mega church, you're likely going to recognize some of the tunes. But the words, that is thanks to the creativity of our guests.
The Book of Judges, chapter 19, verse 29. When he reached home, he took a knife and cut up his concubine, limb by limb, into 12 parts, and sent them into all the areas of Israel.
It really feels like God just wants to cut up the concubines of our hearts,
so that his message is spread to everyone.
When he reached home, he took a knife and cut up his concubine, limb by limb, into 12 parts. Come on, let's sing it out. And he sent them into all of the areas of Israel.
The reason why we put that in our bio is it started with, believe it or not, we're like, what if we let a One Direction song but made it sound like a worship song?
Because our argument was that we didn't want to take away the meaning and the feeling of it, but we really were trying to explain to our friends that you can orchestrate a feeling of worship in any performance.
Yes.
Yeah, you could make anything feel and sound.
And our point was, like, watch, we'll lead this One Direction song in the style of worship and you'll feel it. It's the same chord progression,
That's
the same kind of feel,
yes,
the same tension and release.
Yeah, and then it was funny because, like, shortly we recorded this One Direction song, and then right after that, I had this Bible verse that was always funny to me. It was the Deuteronomy verse. It's if two men are fighting and the wife of one of them goes to rescue her husband. And she basically, if she touches the other dude's junk while she's breaking up the fight, like you shift your focus on her and chop her fucking hand off.
That'd be Deuteronomy 25:11, y'all.
Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 11 and 12. If two men are fighting, and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, you shall cut off her hand. Show her no pity.
If two men the fighting, and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband. He is a slave, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts. You shall cut off her hand and show her no pity. Now, Sayge, do me a favor. Show everybody that you have two hands.
I love that the Bible is specific in some areas. They're like, well, we can't be sure. And in other areas, show her no pity.
Right. How many times did that happen?
It's so specific. Why is it female bears?
I don't remember that on a Sunday at all. That they kind of gloss over that one.
No.
Yeah.
So we took that verse and we just threw it to this like hokey little kind of like hymn tune. We didn't really even work on the melody.
The truth is, if you really listen, the harmonies are like like I'm hanging on for dear life. Like we did that in one take, and I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, and it was literally like, hey, let's try and do this. Like, try and be like a children's, like cheesy children's pastor, and then we posted the video, and it just went way beyond what we ever imagined could happen. Like,
and
it was so bizarre.
We were shocked that people thought we were for real. Like, people thought we actually were that couple, which blew our mind because we always thought we looked so ridiculous and dumb that everybody would know that we're just joking around.
Yeah, like there was there's no costumes or anything. It's just us saying we are these things.
And then that was all it took for people to be like, yeah.
Well, Prez, I want to go back to what you said maybe a minute ago or so, because I think you nailed why people are drawn to it, why I was drawn to it. And it's the idea that I've seen this before. I've seen this on Sunday. I've heard that chord before. I've been drawn in before.
Genesis chapter 19, verses 34 through 36. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight. And you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father.
And the younger daughter went and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. Sing this out, every voice. Both Lot's daughters became pregnant by the father. Became pregnant by the father. Became pregnant by the father. Both Lot's daughters became pregnant.
For people who have not met you before, in the show notes, I'll have links to your TikToks and everything like that. But I guess what I want to know, let's go back into the past a bit. Could you each describe in general what your relationship to religion was, let's say the first 18 years of your life? What was your upbringing?
Yeah, the Cliff Notes version for me is I didn't grow up in the church. I was 14 when I was first.
Then you were
invited
never
to
really a
church.
Christian, so that explains everything.
Yeah, that's what I was lukewarm.
I've been told that before. Just saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been legit called a backslider so many times in my life. I became a Christian at 14 and really did. Like, I really gave my whole self to it. I got really wrapped up in Christian culture, and it was right at this weird time in Christian culture too, where like Tooth and Nail Records and a lot of like the Christian punk bands were starting to make a name for themselves. And I was in the punk rock scene, and all my friends who weren't, they're not Christians, they're all punk rock kids. And I had this like bridge with these bands that my friends liked and I liked. And so it kind of like gave me a little more acceptance into that community. But it also started off a weird kind of like, I think I've been deconstructing since I got in it, because I had friends who were challenging me, and I had, you know, ideas that were conflicting, that I thought were beautiful ideas, you know. And so anyways, long story short, I went through high school, prayed every single day, read my Bible every day, you know, saved myself for marriage, went and became a pastor, and then spent the majority of my life inside of a mega church. Oddly enough, I stayed at the same church for 20 years. And I think that's a rarity within the church world. But the interesting thing was, for me, I thought that my story was going to be unique. Like when I started sharing it on TikTok, I truly thought that it would be like, whoa, this guy's got an angle, a story we've never heard. And then it was quickly like, oh no, it was like literally there's like now thousands of people who have reached out to me with similar stories of mine and church history and all that. Yeah, that's a little bit, there's a lot more there.
No, that gives us the background for sure.
Hey, Trysten and Sayge here. It's come to our attention that some of you find me attractive. And although that's flattering, we do want to ask that you would check your heart. You know, I'm a married man. Now, it's also come to our attention that some of you find Sayge here attractive, and she will be working on that.
So, Prez, how about you?
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting to say that I am third generation born in the United States. And so the truth is my family has a deep culture. I'm Chinese and Japanese in like Buddhism, but also Christianity. So my family, we called ourselves Baptist Buddhists. My family has always grown up like equally Christian and Buddhist in some ways. Like it wasn't highly influential, but it was always present, I would say, more culturally. There was no real separation of race and truly socioeconomic privilege when it came to my experience with religion, because my parents weren't necessarily religious, but they saw value in sending me to a private Christian school. In my perspective, I truly feel like it was more of like almost like keeping up with the Joneses. Like, I don't mean that in any disrespect to them, but they were not Christian. They were kind of brought up that way. My dad's from the East Coast, so he grew up super Catholic, and then later Baptist. I never was able to separate my learning of Buddha from Jesus and Christianity and Buddhism and Taoism and Taoism. Like, to me, it all felt very similar, like very equal to one another. Like it felt like different versions of one bigger story. So that's why I never felt like I got quote unquote brainwashed. But I did go to a private Christian school from the ages of 5 through 10. And then I actually moved to LA where I was homeschooled to do different like acting jobs and things like that. But I had a terrible thing happen to me there that made me move back home. And I actually I thought I was an atheist for a really long time. And part of my story is that when I was applying for music schools, like I have so much shame and embarrassment in this, but I think it's important that I say this. I didn't get into any of the schools that I wanted to get into. Like I got very, very close, but because I chose the route of music major, they only take so many classical guitarists at USC. They only take so many people at the Berklee College of Music. So I ended up being forced to go to Azusa Pacific University. And I went there begrudgingly, and I had an attitude. I did not want to go. I had a lot of judgment towards Christians. I thought they were hypocritical because I would grow up going to youth group, and I would see these people at youth group and on Sunday worshiping and preaching all of this. And then I'd see them at the same parties I was at. It's really interesting that I had such a jaded view of Christianity, and I still got brainwashed by it. So when I got to Azusa Pacific, it's very strange, but I took a class called Exodus Deuteronomy. When I started Exodus, I thought, what have I gotten myself into? I started being in lecture halls with people, I mean, no disrespect, but people from Bakersfield who were saying some of the most unhinged things that I was like, what is happening? But then when I got through Deuteronomy, my whole perspective changed. And I still, looking back, can't quite figure out what it is. I think it's honestly from being in chapel every single day and singing these songs, if I'm being honest. But anyway, that's what ended up happening. I got forced into going to Azusa Pacific University, but then that's where I became a Christian, but always holding this kind of Buddhist cultural upbringing.
Psalm chapter 137, verse 9. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks.
We are a Bible-based church and believe that women should remain silent in churches, unless they're speaking under their husband's authority. Sayge will now speak under my authority.
And I'm so grateful for that privilege, thanks to my husband. Well, this verse we're going to talk about is one that we feel is really underappreciated and undervalued in the Bible. And so we decided we would set it to a really familiar tune to help us kind of remember these really big, difficult concepts. Like the fact that God's love is unconditional for us and all of his children, unless you're like the children of our enemies, which really makes sense if you think about it.
Your midriff is showing. Can you please modest up? All right, church, here we go. Let's sing. Dash the children, oh God, on the rocks. Dash those kids on the rocks. Swing like never before by their legs and dash those kids on the rocks. Amen.
Joshua, back to you. There had to have been some parts that you loved about working at your church, but you also see how the sausage is made, right? So can you just talk a little bit about what you loved, but then also what made you be presented with an NDA agreement?
Yeah, that's a tough one because so much of what I did, I love.
You're a passionate person. I see it all over you.
Yeah. It's hard because the thing that I loved about the church is also the thing I mourn about the church.
Mm-hmm.
I still, to this day, even being outside of it, see the beauty and the hope that the church can be for people if done right. But I don't know if we'll ever see it done right in our lifetime. But I saw what I thought the church could be. I thought I could be a part of that. And then when it was going off course, I thought I could change it. The unfortunate truth is that it's just so manipulated by people and by power that I don't think the reins will ever be let up. And so yeah, I think the thing I love about the church is the hope that the church offers, but I also like see all the gross stuff that it offers. And unfortunately that outweighs it. But I also really loved, like, one of the hardest things leaving the church, one of the things for me was the community of it. And I hear a lot of people talk about it. Like, the community of the church was amazing. Now, you did get sat next to weird-ass Steve, who hugs people way too fucking long because he's a greeter. And you know that he's a greeter just because he wants to feel that woman's tits push up against him.
And he's the same shirt in every color.
And that coffee breath, just, it's there. But the community aspect is, you know, there's something about being known on a very deep level that happens inside the church. Like, you're immediate, like, they know your sins, they know the shit that's going on in your life. In some aspects, you really are part of a community that does know you. Unfortunately, the foundation of that community is cracked and flawed. But that was one of the hardest things in leaving, was like not being known, and not in the sense of like being known on like a celebrity level, like being known on a personal level. Cause these are the people that like knew, they were there when my children were born. Like, they were there when my nephew passed away.
Yeah, we're talking depth here, that things you don't have to explain.
Yeah, exactly. And so finding myself out of that was hard, and something that I found myself like longing for and missing a lot, which was like just being known by my community to the depth that I was. And I'm finding that now, but I think that the church does, you know, that's one of the things I miss about the church, is that immediate built-in community.
2 Kings chapter 6, verses 28 and 29. Then he asked her, "What's the matter?" She answered, "This woman said to me, 'Give up your son, so we may eat him today.'" and tomorrow we'll eat my son. So we cooked my son and ate him. The next day I said to her, Give up your son, so we may eat him. But she had hidden him.
Come on, let's sing it out. Give up your son, so we may eat him. And tomorrow we will eat up my son too. Every voice. So we bore my son, and we ate him.
What made you leave the community?
There was a bunch of things, and I can answer this question a bunch of different ways, but I think seeing that I wouldn't be able to be a part of the change, and that no matter what I did in the church, it was just going to continue to hurt people that I love.
Mm-hmm.
A big part of the exit for me is we had gone through a study on the clobber passages. And it was like a 4-year study there was like 7, sometimes 9 pastors studying this together every week.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out what our church believes about this and how we present it to them. And then ultimately we came to a really amazing place for a mega church. That was going to allow for people from the LGBTQIA community to serve and hold places of leadership, and pastors could marry same-sex couples and all of that. And then all of a sudden it was shut down. Like, it was because the guy who had all the money said, And so these 4 years of studying, all this time, and it was just really, really heartbreaking to watch so much hope and change to be on the horizon, and then to see it kind of dashed away.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was a big one for me. That was something that kind of broke me. And then I had I mentioned earlier, my nephew passed away, and that put he was 10 days old, and that put a lot of like questions in me. And I'm always a little hesitant to share that, because people will be like, oh, that's weak. You're weak because you left God because of this. And that's, we all know it's a bigger story than that. But yeah, no, it started like really gnawing on me. And I realized like I was on the precipice of becoming someone who I didn't know fully. Like, I was fully ready to abandon the Joshua that lived inside of me to become this pastor guy that is okay with people groups being harmed by the book that he's preaching.
Leviticus chapter 21, verses 18 through 20. No man who has any defect may come near. No man who is blind or lame, disfigured or deformed. No man with a crippled foot or hand, or who is a hunchback or a dwarf, or who has any eye defect, or who has festering or running sores, or damaged testicles.
Broken foot or hand, or who is a hunchback or dwarf, or who has an eye defect or festering rash, stabs or a crushed testicle. Come on, y'all, let's sing. Can't be saved. You can't be saved. Oh.
A lot kind of evolved in me to make it so I couldn't be a part of that. And it's like one of those things is once you kind of break that ceiling, it's hard not to look around and see the madness that is everywhere. And it's like you can't go back to what you had and what you were.
I appreciate how you answered that. That was a lot of energy. That was a lot of time. That was a lot of hope. And then to see just, I don't know, politics or money or something gets in the way. And you didn't sign that NDA, did you? I mean, didn't they offer you some money there? It's interesting how money is really a tool, isn't it?
Yeah, the funny thing is because they hired me so young, I was like 17, just turning 18 when they hired me. They didn't have NDAs at that time. And so I think they just assumed they had one on file for me. So they offered me a pretty large chunk of money.
FYI, for listeners who don't know, non-disclosure agreement is what that stands for.
Yeah, and I would Google it because it is wild to see that this is a standard of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Like pastors, church workers, it's common now. It kind of started with the bigger mega churches, and then now it's like
it should just be a CYA, not an NDA. Cover your ass, you know.
Yeah, right. Totally.
All right. Well, Prez, I want to go back to you now. And where'd you guys meet? How did these circles come together? That's what I want to know.
We did work at the same church together. So the interesting thing about it is we offer two completely different perspectives at the same time. When we compared notes, we were really disturbed because they never expected us to compare notes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so really, I was a video director. He was a creative arts director over the entire worship team. So everything from set design and lights, where I was everything from programming the lights to playing on the worship team to video production. And oddly enough, like we were going through equally very awful personal struggles, and we were literally each other's only friends through it. Like actually. This friendship was really driven by creativity. So we started a company together called Masu, M-A-S-U, which, side note, I later learned that was just a name I chose because it's a type of salmon. But I later learned that that's the name of my great-great-grandfather. And I laugh because the first project we ever worked on together was called COVID. We made a commercial for a company called COVID, which stands for Coaching Video.
And then COVID broke.
out. And for a tiny, tiny second, we heard COVID in the news, and I was like, wait.
We're catching on. In Seattle, no less.
But no. Oddly enough.
I can't tell you how many times I was on stage and a senior pastor would have everybody do the whole, like, with every head bowed and every eye closed, and do the prayer. And then he'd say, raise your hand if you prayed that prayer. And he would start going, I see that hand. I see that hand. Before any hands were up, it was a pure manipulation tactic. And it worked because then more hands would go up.
It was being forced into so many creative projects together that we were able to be vulnerable with each other and start to let one another in and our own struggles. And like, honestly, like we really leaned heavily on one another through that time because we literally had no one. And on top of that, we both realized we got diagnosed with chronic illnesses. So I got diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease. He got diagnosed with diverticulitis. We both lost our jobs and COVID hit.
Man.
And so we were forced to move in with each other. And I want you to imagine someone that you're very cool with at work, but now you're living together. So we were like, cool. This is a big risk, but it was like this sense of trust. Like it sounds so cheesy, but our souls always trusted one another. And so we had conversations of like, all right, we'll have it be temporary. And then boom, chronic illness, boom, another chronic illness, boom, lost your job, boom, lockdown. Like, and honestly, we laugh at this because we really feel like the universe actually forced us together, because on paper, there would be absolutely no reason for us to ever be together. Like I set up his dating profile for him when we first moved in together.
That's amazing.
I just don't know if I blame you for the crazy women that I dated.
Core questions for next time. What have Joshua and Prez found out through their interactions with so many fans on TikTok? What are their religious beliefs at this moment? It may surprise you when you find out. And what would make Josh say it's new and fresh and exciting and evolving? What would cause Prez to say what you see is not a lack of belief? For the answers, you'll have to stay around and find out. Wait, stay around and find out. Is there another way to put that? Let's conclude today's episode with, I think Joshua and Prez's process. And it's a challenge to join us for part 2 next time.
You guys, I need a new theme song for Fuck Around and Find Out.
Fuck around
that you're gonna find out.
But